Hey, welcome to the podcast. Sit back, relax. Try not to throw nothing at me because you won't hurt my feelings. You'll just hurt your computer. This podcast is brought to you by your host, me, Robert McCune. All right. I got some interesting topics to cover here, so let's just dive right into it. Okay, the first story looks like The Empire Strikes Back. New York. In case you've missed it, living under a rock or in an undisclosed location in a cave somewhere, on Monday, October 10th, New York State's Letitia James asked federal appeals judge to keep all gun laws intact while they appeal the previous judge's decision that most of the gun laws that took place on September 1st was unconstitutional. So basically, the state's saying even though the law has been found to be unconstitutional and infringing on people's rights, we would like to stay enforceable so that we can cause as much harm to the good people of our state for as long as possible. Geez, thanks, New York. So James told a judge from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit that there's a serious risk of irreparable harm to the public safety and that the possibility of regulatory chaos. So let me see if I got this right. The state's asking for their unconstitutional laws to stay in place because they're worried about safety and how much chaos it's going to cause them to rewrite these laws, the unconstitutional laws. She goes on to say, as the data confirms, more guns carried in more places by more people result in more crime, violence, and homicide. Geez, I'd really like to see that data because I know it doesn't exist. So, yeah, I'm calling bullshit on this. These are made up stats. I want the FBI's reports that confirms this. I know this data does not exist. Democrats just make up shit. They make shit up and they say anything that sounds good to prove their point. Man, I would have loved to have been the judge listening to this. I would have simply said, is your data from 1791? Because if it isn't, I don't want to hear it. Text, history, and tradition is the only thing that's going to weigh on my decision. And that's pretty much what all the judges has been saying that's been hearing Second Amendment cases. It doesn't matter if they were Democrat appointed judges or Republican appointed judges, they seem to be adhering to the Supreme Court's guidelines from Bruin. So I want to be absolutely clear here. These linguistic gymnastics was performed by Letitia James, lead counsel for the Democrat controlled communist state of New York. See, now, just to give you a little bit more background in case you didn't catch the last podcast, Judge Glenn Sotheby last Thursday, temporarily blocked key parts of New York's law known as the Concealed Carry Improvement Act. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's like the New York Safe Act, but I'm not going to get into that. That's for another show, another topic. So Sotheby ruled that New York officials failed to legally justify gun restrictions in places of public transportation, Times Square, entertainment venues such as theaters, stadiums, concerts, and bars. He also determined that some licensing requirements created by the new law, including requirements that gun applicants disclose their social media activity, that was unconstitutional when weighed against text history and tradition. There's that text history and tradition. I think these states really should get some constitutional attorneys to draw up their laws. And furthermore, I think they should be held accountable for making bullshit laws, wasting time and taxpayers' money doing it. Okay, so here's the conclusion to all this. Out of Rochester, New York State's new concealed carry gun law will remain in effect as state leaders appeal a federal ruling that restricts some of the aspects of the law. Now, the state would have you believe that the Concealed Carry Improvement Act was introduced on September 1st to strengthen requirements for permits, expands the list of prohibited locations for concealed carry, and it requires individuals to seek consent before concealed carry on privately owned property. It also enhances storage requirements. I don't know what they mean by enhances storage requirements. There really wasn't any storage requirements, just that, you can keep them secured. Oh, yeah. And it also requires social media review ahead of any certain purchases and requires a background check before ammunition can be bought. Now, in my opinion, that's an awful lot of asking for permission to use something that is supposed to be a constitutional right, not a suggestion. So, Governor Kathy Hochul announced that she would push back against the ruling on October 7th, and they did. Attorney General Letitia James filed a motion to restore the law in its entirety on October 10th. Excuse me. So, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New York City reversed the temporary restraining order issued last week by U.S. District Judge Sotheby. The appeals court three-judge panel will rule on whether to restore Sotheby's temporary restraining order, but until they do, New York's unconstitutional law is going to stay in place. So, sources reached out to legal expert Paul Cambria that said, in this case, U.S. District Judge Sotheby in Syracuse struck down several provisions of the law last week, but New York State promptly appealed it. So basically, we have a single judge that can halt the law. Then it goes to three judges to see if they agree with it. Then the case goes to the three judges to see if the decision should be upheld or reversed. So this is an interim measure to hold in place until the full three-judge court can make a decision on whether the lower court judge was correct or not. Mr. Camaria also said he wouldn't be surprised if the appeals court ruling took a few months. Wah, wah, wah. That's bad news. He stated that criminal cases generally take precedent over civil cases, but because it's a gun law that might have big effect on the community, the appeals court might expedite it, which, hey, that would be a plus. Let's knock this thing out of the park tomorrow. But not so fast. It still could take a few months, added Cambria, because briefs have to be filed by both sides and the case will be argued orally before a decision is made. Man, this guy's all over the place. He brings us up, he brings us down, he brings us back up, he takes us back down with hopes. Man. Then he simply says, could the decision by the three-judge panel also be appealed? Simply yes. It could go to the U.S. Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court accepts it, at the level that the case is now, an appeal is automatic if requested. However, the Supreme Court only takes cases that they agree to take. There's nothing automatic. My guess is that they would take it up because basically, New York directly defied the Supreme Court over the Bruin decision, and two, it's an important issue right now. So that takes us over to Trenton, New Jersey. You're not going to believe this. New Jersey's top lawmakers unveiled sweeping gun legislation Thursday that would significantly restrict where and when guns can be carried outside of the home, a bill they touted as the nation's strongest measure concerning concealed carry. Can you believe the level of stupid these people are? They know it's not constitutional. They know they're going to get slapped around. Why do they waste the taxpayers' money? Do they not watch the news? Are they incapable of learning from others' mistakes? This is bullshit. I am firmly believe that government should affect people in the most minimalist way. We shouldn't have big government. But you know what? When it comes to our constitutional rights, I think these powers of laws should be taken out of the state's hands. This really should be federalized. A few years ago, I would have shuddered at that thought. I probably would have slapped myself in the mouth for uttering those words. But these states are just taking upon themselves to write laws against our Constitution to restrict our rights. And then they refer to things like, well, you need a license or you need insurance to drive a car. A car is not a constitutional right. what's next? Are they going to be saying that, well, you need insurance and license to talk or to get representation in court? I mean, this is just bullshit. This is the only one of our rights that is supposed to be guaranteed, but we have to ask permission and they just do whatever they want to us. It's seriously communism. So get this. The bill would, among other things, require people wanting to carry a gun in public to purchase liability insurance. Liability insurance for exercising a right. So, this would be the first statewide mandate of its kind in the nation should this bill become law. And banning guns from being carried in about 25 broad categories, including but not limited to government buildings, healthcare facilities, airports, casinos, and private properties where the owners have not given express permission for you to exercise your constitutional rights. Does that sound familiar? Do you think they're gonna, once New York gets slapped around, do you think they're just gonna say, "Oh, wait, we can't do that according to that No, they're gonna wait for somebody to sue them, take them to court over the law, drag it out for 2 years like New York's trying to do, and then they get 2 years of, infringing on our rights before they have to reword it because some judge will slap them down. It'll go to appeals, blah blah blah. The whole two-step constitutional two-step is going to take place here. Once everything's said and done, they're going to change some wording around and put another law in place just as restrictive, but just different wording. And then they're going to wait for the court case. This is going to go on for about the next 50 to 100 years. Mark my words. The only thing that seems to be really different between New Jersey and New York, in New Jersey, if somebody violates this, the violations would be deemed as a third degree crime. In New York, they just move right to a felony. Now, Governor Phil Murphy has vowed to sign the measure, which comes in response to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling earlier this year, which effectively broadened the scope of who can carry guns in public. See, this is just about they all have a stick up their ass about this. They're all pouting, and this is just nothing but a temper tantrum at the cost of the American people. The governor's goal was to ensure that the residents and visitors of their state could be confident in their safety in their sensitive locations such as daycares, hospitals, stadiums, and public transit. Well, what's guaranteeing their safety? Because the cops can't do it. Is the governor going to personally hold every visitor to New Jersey and be their bodyguard? Well, these politicians, they look at law abiding, honest citizens as criminals. They think we're the problem. I think it's just about control. They can't control the criminals, so they stop trying. They're just going to try to control the people that's controllable. Just like they can't do nothing about criminals, so they're going after guns. It's not guns that kill people. It's really not. There's two things that kill people. The idiot, the maniac that's trying to kill somebody, and the actual friggin' bullet. The gun doesn't have anything to do. It just throws the bullet at them. If a person could throw a bullet at 350 feet per second or 3,500 feet per second, they wouldn't need a gun to do it with. It's the actual bullet that makes the hole in the person. So it's insane. So the bill outlines of which is now on the legislative fast track. Assembly Speaker Craig Conlon said it would be heard in committee on Monday and voted in the lower house on October 27th. Although he really couldn't say the same for the Senate, and he really didn't elaborate on what he meant by that. So get this. Um, the proposal unveiled Thursday would be more stringent than New York's law. And in a press release, lawmakers say they anticipate a legal challenge should the bill become law. They already know this is going to take place. They're just wasting taxpayers' money. People wonder why their taxes go up, why they have to pay more for gasoline and that. It's to fund these morons playing a game. That's all it is a game to them. They want to see who wins, who can win. I don't know if it's who can come up with the stupidest idea, or if they're just, playing a game for fun. The the way they're doing this, you would think, it's like high stake poker. They all put like $1 million in the pot and see who could come up with the worst idea. In addition to the stupid insurance mandate, the bill would require prospective gun carriers to undergo rigorous training requirements, including online courses, in person classes, and target training. That's according to the draft of the legislation, anyways. Now, people who carry guns would also be restricted from using or consuming or being under the influence of alcohol or cannabis or any other controlled substance. Being in violation of that would be a fourth-degree crime and could lead to loss of your permit. Fees to apply for a gun permit would go up anywhere from $2 to $200. Now, the insurance mandate would be the first statewide requirement in the county, although in January, San Jose, California will soon begin requiring all gun owners to obtain liability insurance. Now, I can't see how this is constitutional. That should be like struck down immediately because you're putting a financial hardship on some folks. I mean, think about it. People that can just barely scrape by to be able to purchase a firearm because they're expensive. Now, let's say they don't have much money and they can't afford liability insurance. Is the state going to come and take their gun away and limit their ability to protect themselves? That's got to be unconstitutional. I really do seriously expect that to be tossed right away. And furthermore, who do you have to pay this liability insurance to? I can't think of one insurance company that is going to insure somebody in case they shoot someone. I really don't think they're going to get many insurance companies that do that, if any. Now, in a statement, Senator Ed Durr, Republican from Gloucester, and that's in New Jersey, by the way, I probably screwed that pronunciation up. Um, he said difficulties in obtaining a concealed carry permit motivated him to seek office. And he further stated Thursday that Democrats are trying to override the Constitution and the U.S. Supreme Court's recent decision. I agree with this guy. He's right. Now, he went on to say, we have the strictest gun laws in the country, which they do. And this is yet another clear example of Democrats, or excuse me, I mispronounced that, Democrats, open hostility to the Second Amendment and the Constitution as a whole. And protecting public safety also includes protecting individuals' right to self defense, yet Democrats take every opportunity to prevent people from protecting themselves. Criminals are the problem, not law abiding citizens who have rights. Well, we don't have rights. We have as much rights as the Democrats are allowing us to have. This is not a free country when we have to do this. History says the Revolutionary War ended September 3rd, 1783. I say bullshit. The Revolutionary War is going strong till today. It never ended. The only difference is instead of fighting the British, we're fighting our own country day for our rights. It's an ongoing battle. And here's a story that just concurs with all this. Okay, here's a story. It goes to show what the problem is about, and surprise, it's not guns. Now, this is according to NBC out of New York. So they report an axe wielding man in Manhattan McDonald's attack is arrested again. That's right, a 31-year-old Bronx man arrested in a bizarre axe attack at a Manhattan McDonald's last month is in trouble again. Repeat offenders. Gotta love them. Bless their little hearts. The Democrats just don't want to lock criminals up. They want them to keep going. Can you imagine 10 years ago if somebody attacked another person with a friggin' axe? They would have been locked up for 30 years. we wouldn't have had to we wouldn't have to deal with this recidivistic maggot for the next 30 years. But no, they take their picture, they give them a little fingerprints, and they shove them right back out in the street. I wouldn't surprise me if they didn't hand him his axe back. So I'm going to screw this guy's name up. It's Michael Paliso, maybe P-A or Placios. Well, anyways, he was busted Sunday for allegedly spraying graffiti on a building in Brooklyn and stealing a bicycle. Probably a little tricycle after he knocked the girl off the little girl riding the tricycle. Well, he was released without bail. No surprise there. Just as he was last month, dealing with an attack with an axe on the Lower East Side McDonald's. See, this is the problem right here. There's no crime enforcement. There's just law abiding people enforcement. There's no consequences for these criminals. Just none. The Democrats refuse to lock up criminals, allowing them to roam our streets, and then take the law abiding citizens' rights to defend themselves away, knowing that these predators are on the loose. Now, maybe I'm nuts. And I think, and call me a conspiracy theorist, it just seems to me that if you have high crime and low income, it only plays into the Democrats' hands. So they can hand out more so called free stuff, which, by the way, nothing is free. We all pay for it just in other ways. The more violent crime that is committed, the more it fits the narrative that they need to restrict more guns from citizens, which means more Democrat power. Well, I'm done ranting and raving about this. Now I'm going to go have a shot and a beer and try to calm down. So that's going to be it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. Stay calm, stay cool. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Have a good one.